So yesterday I made a video on how to do a gravity turn in KSP2 EA. And what a gravity turn is supposed to be an efficient way of using both the thrust of the rocket and the power of gravity to get in orbit. And I guess to understand exactly how to get in orbit, the easiest way that people used to say was fly straight up and turn right. And then you have to go fast enough to try to miss the Earth. And once your speed is fast enough, then you find a balance point and your craft will just literally stay in orbit. And that is flying straight up and turning right is the most inefficient way of getting in orbit. So what a gravity turn is you start thrusting straight up, and this little symbol here is the KSC. You fly straight up, and I've got it over here so you can kind of see. You fly straight up, away from the planet, but you tilt a little bit so that your path is actually at an angle and you're climbing, and it is a bit of resistance between the gravity, which wants to pull you down, and the thrust of the rocket, so that will end up pulling you in a long, slow climb, and it saves fuel and it's much more efficient. And Streetwind over on the KSP forums was kind enough to give me a craft to work with. And the one that I started with yesterday was massively overpowered. It had a thrust to weight ratio of somewhere in the nature of 1.8. And this one, I believe, is closer to 1.2. It's a very minimal rocket. And so we're going to see if we can do the flight profile. The other thing I did was I used this nav ball and I kept pressing a key to kind of force the rocket to turn, because when it's more powerful it just wants to fly straight up. When it's weaker it wants to fall over easily, and I was driving this, actively forcing it over to get it to about 45 degrees at an altitude of about 4,000 meters. And that was really inefficient and everything like this. And the idea for this flight today is I'm going to hit the gas on this and go, and I'm going to push the D key one time and leave it alone and let the actual gravity turn the rocket for me. And if everything works right, I shouldn't have to do anything other than that. So I'm going to be watching over here to get my surface velocity up to about 60 meters a second. I'll push the D key over about 5 degrees, which is kind of like where the edge of the circle is, and then we're just going to watch it and see if that happens.
Okay.
So I'm making sure he's staying in neutral flight pattern. I'm watching here to see if I get up to about 60 meters a second. And nose over a little bit. So I can't encourage the plane to come over. And then once it's about 5 degrees over, I'm going to hit full prograde, which this is forward, basically. And theoretically, a combination of thrust from the rocket and the gravity should make this a very nice flight for our rocketeer Jebediah Kerman and this really tiny little rocket. And during these launches, you can see us leaving KSC behind. Clouds, which is a nice new addition to stock KSP. I like to watch over here, kind of keep an eye on my fuel, how that's going. I look at, make sure my thrust is good. And so here we are, just over 5,000 at about 45. So this may be too shallow of a burn. I may have tilted over too much, because he said that I should be 45 much sooner. And yep, I can tell I'm going to fail this because he's way too flat, way too far over on this. let this play out. I can tell this because I've played KSP so long. My AP is really low. Apoapsis, which is the height of the arc, the throw, is really low. And plus, we're getting really close to, parallel to the Earth way too soon. So this is going to be a failure, but maybe we can learn something about this. And I'll go ahead and stop this here because I know for a fact that this is a failure. It's going to start going down my apoapsis. In fact, I'll let you watch this for a second. Once this crosses, you're going to see my apoapsis number decrease. 12,000 meters isn't even out of the atmosphere. And we'll fire this up, and now you should, that's interesting, you should start seeing the apoapsis go down, but it's still going up, which is weird. Even though the rocket is clearly aimed at the ground now. There, it's evened out, and now it's dropping rapidly. You see these numbers are going down. So basically this rocket is going to crash into the planet, and this is where I'm going to stop. So we will call this learning by failure.